People are not, well, we all are going to die. So, for heaven's sakes, folks.
That doesn't get weirder the more you watch it. But that statement she just made was, until today, probably the most callous thing any Republican has said in defense of this bill. But today, Vice President J.D. Vance managed to outdo her somehow. And what I think might be the most telling defense of this bill yet, in a tweet, which I just have to note, means this wasn't a verbal slip after not getting enough sleep. He wasn't caught by a reporter in the hallway. He actively wrote this out and then posted. The CBO score, the proper baseline, the minutia of the Medicaid policy is immaterial compared to the ICE money and immigration enforcement provisions. Immaterial. That's what he's talking about, Medicaid cuts. In other words, what he's saying there is that the 11 million people who will be kicked off their insurance and the hundreds of rural hospitals that could close, that's trivial to J.D. Vance. It's minutia. And will all be worth it when this bill pours hundreds of billions of dollars into pulling people off the streets, putting them in overcrowded facilities, and disappearing them out of the country, all in the name of Trump's cruel immigration policy. That's basically what the Vice President of the United States tweeted. And I think that is telling for a lot of reasons. I mean, consider this moment from the presidential campaign, when a voter in Wisconsin asked J.D. Vance about his plans to increase access to health care in rural areas.
What concrete plans would your administration have to protect rural health care access?
So there are a couple things here. So first of all, this goes back to the immigration issue. Now, you might not think that rural health care access is an immigration issue. I guarantee it is an immigration issue because we're bankrupting a lot of hospitals by forcing these hospitals to provide care for people who don't have the legal right to be in our country. We've got to stop that. Kick these illegal aliens out, focus on American citizens, and we will do a lot to make the business of rural health care much more affordable.
First of all, what J.D. Vance just said there about immigrants burdening rural hospitals and forcing them to close is flat out wrong, and many fact checkers pointed that out at the time. But let's just pretend for a second that it was true, because I have a point here, I promise. J.D. Vance's argument is that Trump's cruel mass deportation agenda would be carried out in service of keeping rural hospitals open. That's his argument, of making sure Americans had access to health care. But today, he basically says the opposite. He says that actually rural hospitals have to close and people have to go without health care in service of carrying out Trump's cruel mass deportations. That's his point. See, the cruelty isn't just the point, it's the priority. It doesn't matter how many American citizens